All right, now we are at a point where we need to understand how to use the Git tool um, locally. But before that, you need to understand some abstract things that happens, especially the stages through which the files that you handle locally go through before they actually get to the remote repository. Um, so here there are going to be three main stages, right? There are three main stages. This is going to be stage one. Let's picture that this is going to be the stage two, and then this is going to be stage three. And I will explain all of them. The stage one is called the working directory. Working directory. When they say directory, it's basically um a folder, right? So the working directory. This is our stage one, right? Stage two is going to be the staging area. Staging area. Then stage three is our local repository. The local repository is a, a copy, it's the actual copy of the remote repository, right? So that's where the local is. But your files needs to move from this stage. A file should work here, goes to this stage and goes to this stage, right? So here is the working directory. So there's nothing outside here. There's nothing outside here, right? So this is the working directory, meaning this is basically where you actually write your code. When you are writing your code, automatically they are captured in the working directory. Whenever you make any change, you add a new file to the actual code. Everything that you are working on is on the working directory. So and then the staging area is where you temporarily save some portion of the code while you are working in working directory. So when you're in the working directory, right, you are working on some portion of code and a particular part of it is ready, right? It's ready, right? You temporarily send it to the staging area, then you go and continue on the other parts. When each individual part is ready, you'll be sending them to staging area. So the staging area will be having kind of a temporal um, copy of a ready file, a file that you considered ready, or a feature you are working on that is ready. All of them will be saved here from here. But here, the working directory is where you are doing the messy work, where you are actually typing and listening. When something is ready, you push it to the staging area. You haven't done anything, you are just saving it temporarily over there while focusing on the other parts. You must go and work on make a change to a file that you submitted to staging area already. And when you are done, then you can push it back. It will just override the previous one if they are looking at if they are the same changes, right? So staging area is just an area that allows you to temporarily save your file without doing any other thing to it. Now, the local repository is where you have to now make update it, your local repository. The local repository is working hand in hand with the remote one. So you need to push your when you come to the staging area where your works are ready. Let's assume all your works are ready. You need to actually attach a message, right? A particular description to what you have done for this particular turn of work, right? Then you push them into the local repository. Local repository is a copy of the remote one, but then you made a new change. You made a new change, right? And you save it locally. That's what the local repository will do. It will save. This is where when you're sending it here now, you properly give a message to all these things. So maybe this one you can add a message that okay, feature one done. So the feature one is done, feature one done, right? Then you send it to the local repository. It will be saved locally. So that repository is locally done. And what you now move from here is that you send it to the remote, the one that is on the GitHub, right? So this one goes to GitHub, right? Right. But then the whole flow is that you work on the repository. While working in the working directory, there are some of the things that are ready. You just quickly push them here for the meantime while you are continuing. When everything that you are working on is ready, and you come back, you group them together, you put all of them together, right? Because you are working on a feature. So the feature has small components. So you are working on the components small, you're sending them in the staging area. When they are all ready, then you attach a message to all of them, like example feature one done, and you push them into your local repository. Now, it's when they are in the local repository, when they are ready, then before you can, it's the local repository that can communicate with the GitHub. It's the local repository state that can communicate with the GitHub. And when the thing gets to the local repository, it cannot be undone. It cannot be undone. So you can just, it's going to keep a version. It's going to be any new thing that you add, is going to be added to the previous one, right? So it's going to be a version that you are copying every time. Every time you make a new change and you send it to a local repository, it's going to be there as a commit. You call it a commit, right? A snapshot of whatever you have done. And that will be the one to be sent to the GitHub one, right? Okay, so this is the flow. So we are going to see the code. So we have to have it in the back of our mind when we are working on something, that we are working in the working directory. When we are done, we push them to staging area, right? When everything is ready and we feel like, okay, this one needs to be sent to the local repository, we send it to the local repository. When they are all in the local repository, then meaning that locally we are confirmed and sure that this is what we want. Then the local repository, from the local repository, we send it to actual GitHub on the remote. Let's go through that process on our machine and see. So keep this particular picture in mind of what we are doing, and we see the commands to do all the various stuff, right? Moving from here to here, moving from the staging area to the local repository. What you do there, that process is committing. You are committing. You are committing the code. You are committing the code. You are committing the feature. You are committing the new update. So that's basically the new updates there, right? So you commit the message to your local repository, then you do. That's the term that we use. That's the term that we use. um let's get to that. Let me okay, so we go to this thing that we did, right? I think I found it somewhere. Yeah, this is the test. Yes, so we open the folder, right? That where we made a copy from. We open that folder. Then let me adjust things here. Let's start coding. Okay, we are ready now. So yeah, this is where we are, right? So what we have to do is that we need to make a change. We need to make a change right now. So the change I'm going to do is going to create a simple Python file, right? I'll create a simple Python file. Let me write. So right click here. You have to enter the folder, right? When you are seeing the .git, right? Click on an empty space, right? And then go to show more. Open Git bash here. You open it, right? Okay. So I'm assuming at this stage you have an IDE open, especially VS Code. So VS Code, you have VS Code already. Then we go like this. Code space dot, right? We are trying to open VS Code. So this is what you use, code dot. You are opening the VS Code in this folder. You are opening this folder inside the VS Code. So it's going to do that for us. Let's see what we have. So you see, we have the .git ignore here across them. It's my own file. So let me close this one. Let me close this guy too. Now we focus on this. So right now there are .git ignore and then remember, right? This is what we have here. .git ignore and this, but this .git is not, is the one, this is the one taking track of the various stages that you are in. If you do something right now, it's going to be there, right? Let me create a new file, Python file, creating a new file there. Let me call it test.py, enter, right? So test.py, enter. It's a simple file, right? What should we do? I'm just going to print a message, print hello world. Just a simple message that I'm trying to print. And then let's take note of something. There is a U here in front of the file, right? There's a U here in front of the file, and I'll explain that very soon. But then we have created a new file, right? So if you go back to the folder side, not in VS Code, you will see that there's a test Python file here, right? That's good. That's what we just added in VS Code. We open VS Code and we created a file called Python file, and that file contains something. So it's U over there, right? So what you need to do is that you remember we open our Git bash here already, right? So right now we are going to start the command. Let me open it, make it bigger, right? Let me make it bigger. Control plus, make it bigger. Okay. So now we know that we have added Python file to this particular project, right? So what we are going to do is that right now we need to check the status, Git status. You have to enter Git status. and you see some messages, right? So it actually gives ideas or gives you the status of each stage, the working stage, the staging stage, and then the local repository. The first one, this one is about the local repository, right? The one I explained earlier. But any following one, these ones are going to be about, so the staging is supposed to come before the this thing, the working one. But untracked files, meaning that the file, Git has been able to identify that a file has been added, but we have not started tracking it. Meaning that Git has not started tracking, but Git can actually see that, okay, a file has been added to the working repository, but we have not started tracking them. Starting tracking them is when you push that file to GitHub for the first time. When you put that file to GitHub for the first time, then that's what becomes the um so when the file has never been to staging area and commit, then it is going to be marked as untracked because Git has noticed that a new file is added, right? That explains the U in front of the test.py here. There's U here. U means untracked, right? They have not started tracking it. So because this is the first time it's coming, we are adding it and it's not yet tracked. It has never gone through the staging area, and then we need to now add it to the staging area, right? So remember, this is just to check the status. Now let's look at how to make a file go to the staging area. So after making all our changes, we want to add everything, right? So you do git add. Remember, anytime we want to run a git command, we need to start with git. That's why you see the git status, the git now add. This is another command, git add space dot. The dot means you are adding all. The dot means you are adding all. So any change that you have made on this particular platform, on this particular folder, right? You are trying to add all. Right now, we see that when you check the status, we did not track this thing. So, but we need to add all these things. This addition is going to be done to staging area. So I'm adding all. The dots just mean add. Or if you don't want to do the dots, right, it's going to be test.py. You want to add the name of the file directly, right? But right now, let's start doing it for all of them. Any change that we make, we want to add all the changes to GitHub, the staging area directly. So press enter here. No message, right? Let's check the Git status again. Git status. So see what it tells us. Now it's green. It's no more red. Initially it was the untracked, right? But see what happened. Changes to be committed. Meaning changes that are ready to be committed. Remember, when we are inside, when something is inside the staging area here, we commit it to the local repository. So the Git is telling us that, okay, these are the changes that are ready to be committed. Meaning that those changes are inside the staging area, and then they are the one ready to be committed. Meaning that they are the ones sent to um staging area, local repository, right? That's what it's saying, that changes to be committed. So we are not going to commit it yet, right? We are going to add another file, right? I'm going to add another file again. Let me call it file2, file2.py, right? Print I am inside the second file. This is a message, right? So the file2. Now let's go and check the Git status. Remember, file2 is also a new one, right? File2 is also a new one that I've added. See what happened. See the message here. A, meaning we have added it, but U is untracked because it has never entered the um, the pipeline. It has never entered the staging area to be committed or do anything. It's the first time it's coming, so it's untracked altogether. So we need to go back to the Git status. Git status. Check the status again. So if you check all the status now, you see that, okay, the main branch is the same. This is from the Git. This is the local repository. This is the staging area. Change it to be committed, right? You haven't committed it, remember, right? And now here we have untracked files. Untracked files. Okay. So we are going to the file is currently untracked. So what we are going to do is that basically let's add it. So the first time I thought to git add all, right? But if you want to add a specific file, here is when you git add the name of the file. Imagine you have different files, but you want to focus on just a specific one. We are going to add this one. So let me check the git status again. Now you see first changes to be committed. Now they are now two, because we are now adding two files, right? So now these two are ready, right? So all happen is that we want to move them to the commit. We want to commit them, right? But then when you are commit, you have to commit with a message. You have to commit with a message, because in the staging area you are just temporarily saving, but you want to move them to actual local repository, so that local repository can send it to the remote. So this is git commit. Remember, we are committing. Git commit, then dash m, meaning we are going to write a message basically. So then open the quotation mark, right? Then you add your message. First commit message to files, right? I'm just any message right now. I'm just writing any message. So that message should be in quotation mark. You see how I close it in double quotation mark? That's how you have to do it. Double quotation marks. First commit message to files, right? So you have git commit dash, because we are ready to commit now. So the commit will be able to see all these files. So the commit, when we call commit, is going to look into the staging area and look at the files that are there, and then be able to commit them. So right now I'm going to press enter. Yeah, so what is he saying? First commit message. This is a message, right? He says two files change, two insertions, create mode, and file.py and test.py. Let's check the status again. Git status. So he's saying that your branch is ahead of the origin. So meaning that, remember, the origin one is the GitHub itself, the remote one. By saying that your branch is ahead of the origin main by one commit, meaning that the change that you have made locally is kind of a bit ahead of the one. So we are asking you to use the git push to push it to the remote, meaning that there is something inside the local repository. There's something inside the local repository. So these are the stages to move file, right? So nothing to commit. So they're saying for the commit side, they say nothing to commit. Working tree clean, meaning there's nothing in the working stage, there's nothing in the staging area. Those sides are clean, but only a new message in this thing. So now let's go back to VS Code and see the status of the files. So now, right now, there's nothing is marked again. They are not marked again because they have been saved to the local repository. So we are not seeing any marked in here, right? But right now, they are still on our machine in our own local repository. Remember, it still hasn't gone to GitHub yet. This is to make sure these stages are important, right? For you to be able to save works and then be able to be sure that locally everything is tested and working before you send your final products to the GitHub. That's why you need to move through these stages, because as a developer, you'll be doing a lot of handling. But understanding this stage allows you to be more efficient and not minimize mistake, right? Because on the GitHub, you'll be working with teams and you need to make sure everything is working well in your local repository before it is sent out. So remember, we are here, we'll be able to work in the working directory, send something to the staging area, and we will move to the local repository. Now everything is in the local repository now. Now we need to send them to GitHub. So to send them to GitHub, let's open the distance. Right now everything is in the local repository, right? So we understand those lines. So I'm going to do git add git clear. I'm going to clear the terminal. So I'm coming to clear the terminal. See here, clear, to make sure everything is clear for me, right? So now the next thing is just to now we need to, the thing is in local repository. Let's send it to GitHub. So that one we use the command git push origin main. Now let me explain. The git push means that the thing is currently in our local repository. We are pushing to the remote. Remember, we are pushing the thing to the remote there. We are sending to the remote there, right? So that's what we are having. And then the origin just refers to basically the online repo. It's an alias. This is an alias, but I don't want to go into those details, right? But it's origin. So whenever you say git push origin main, right? Main is the branch on the remote, right? Is the name of the branch on the remote. So if I go back to this place, you can see we are currently on the main branch. I told you there's only one branch right now, and that branch is called main. If this branch was having another name, then we have written that name, right? Or if you have another branch that you want to push to, then you enter that name. But we are doing git branch push, meaning that if you go to the origin, if you go to the on the remote, push to the main branch. On the remote side, on the GitHub, push to the main side. That's what it means. So git push to the origin's main branch. That's what it means. This is what the code means. So we are pushing, enter, we wait for it to be uploaded, and then this thing has been sent to the online now. So let's check the status. Git status. Now you see your branch is up to date. Look, everything is clear. Now let's go to our remote and see what happens there. So this one 2 days ago, let me refresh my stuff. Yes. So now 4 minutes ago, we made a push, and that message that we added was first commit message to file. It has been added. You can see the file 2.py and test.py, right? That's how we have been able to move from our local to the remote. So if I quickly go to make another change, right? So right now I'm going to make a change now. So I'm going to say, I'm going to add another print line. Print I am a new line, basically. So you made a change to your code, right? Right now, test.py is now marking as modified. Modified, meaning that it's a file that has been tracked already, right? It's a file that has been tracked already, but it is actually modified. Okay. So if I bring a new file, let me say file 3.py, right? So print I am the newest file. See, what happened is that one is going to be untracked because it's the first time that we are having it, right? And Git hasn't tracked it yet, so it's untracked. But this one, it has been tracked, but right now it's prompting you that this particular file has just been modified. So Git is the one updating you on all these things, that what you are doing, you're working at, just giving you the status of whatever you are doing, so that you keep track of it. So but this file is a new one and has not been tracked yet, but this one has been modified. So what we'll go back to do is that we'll go to the Git tab again. Let me clear everything. So if I make change, I'll just check the status. Okay, so I can see that changes not staged. We haven't staged them for commit. This one is a change that has been, but this one is an track file. You see that? So all these things are part of their status from the working directory. So it is that changes have not been staged, meaning you haven't put them in the staging area because it's a change you made, so it's modified. The status is saying modified, but this one is an track file, so they all come together in the distance. So what we need to do is that we need to, because there are two files that we need to git add all, the dot added all, right? Now let's take the git status. So you can see the two of them. This one has been modified, this one has been modified, and this one is saying it's a new file. Basically, it's telling you the information of what you are doing, right? And then from there, what happens? Then we clear. So no, this is the staging area, right? So now we need to commit them. So you say git commit -m and then space, and then you put the quotation mark, you put the message there. Say test modified and file 3 added. Just a message that describes what you are doing, right? So that your partners also see. But right now we are just focusing on you alone. So modified, I think this is English, space, press enter. So let's check the status again. The git status. So it's telling us that our branch is ahead of the origin by 1 commit, meaning that something is in the repository. We need to update, we need to push. So to push, we go to git push origin main, the name of the branch on the origin, the name of the branch on the remote. We enter that, then it's being sent safely. It has been done. Then we go back to GitHub. Then you see, let me refresh again. Yeah, so you see the new commit, test modify and file 3 added. That's the commit message that we do. So this one was just came from the local repository. That's how you push your change to the GitHub. And yeah, so you'll be able to track. This one has been added 8 minutes ago, but this one has been modified or added just now, 1 minute ago now. You see, so GitHub allows you to keep track of the various versions of your file and be able to tell you what happened to each file and at what time. Yes, so right now that's the flow, right? Something locally going upward.